Okay, Glendora, I'm starting episode 8 now. Where I left off was my attorney, Mark Oxman, had suggested, he said, if you pick it 21 days in a row, I'm sure they will settle. So when I went down to Florida, the Deutsche Bank, one of their they have a separate building down there which Bankers Trust used to be in. So I decided that I was going to pick it for 21 days. And I think a couple of the days I might have had someone with me, but basically I had to do it alone. And as I said quickly before, was that the police stopped me. It's a public sidewalk, of course, in the front. And you know, in Palm Beach there, it's quite elegant. They have a two-way thing with an aisle and grass in between. And it was, you know, a pleasant atmosphere actually, but the weather was warm. But the police came on motorcycles and they said, you know, they don't want you to pick it anymore. And I said, well, I need proof that I can't, you know. And they said, well, they're telling us you can't do it. So anyway, I said, okay, I'll go to the county office. So I did. I went to the office and I said, just show me in printed, you know, one of your books or printed, that I'm not allowed to picket in Palm Beach or protest. And they said, well, they would have to look for it. I said, okay, I'll stop for a day and I'll be in touch with you. I'll give you one day to find it. So the next day I don't think they called me actually. So I went to see them or call them, I think I did. And I said, what happened? They said, well, we can't find anything. I said, okay, so it means I can pick it. So they didn't know what to do. So I did. They tried to tell me, oh, in elegant Palm Beach, you know, you cannot pick it. Well, I'm sorry. It doesn't go that way as far as I know. So anyway, I did pick it. And I kept on the phone, I kept in touch with my people in New York on the phone because they wanted to know what was going on, you know, how I was and all that. Then the Palm Beach Post, the paper, came to me, and the Daily News. I had been in touch with them before, I know, for other situations. Anyway, they sent someone over there to interview me. And she was very impressed with me, my determination, my reason for picketing. We always sensed that she might have had a law background. She was very informed, very intelligent. And so she interviewed me, had me in her office. She also called New York a lot and spoke with one of my group who did a lot of research and knew things, had the legal papers and everything. So they went through a lot of work and a lot of time. It took quite a bit of time. I don't know if it took a couple of months or what, but it took time to get everything in line. I know it took all the time that I was out there, the 21 days. So anyway, in 2005, it was the weekend that Donald Trump got married in Palm Beach. So there were a lot of people internationally and nationally, you know, a lot of important people came around. And that's the weekend they put it in the Post, which was really something. But I'll tell you, it was an extensive interview. It was very large in the Sunday paper, I think in the business section. And they had photos of me in there. And anyway, as I say, they spent hours, and she said, you know, I think you are only the tip of the iceberg. However, she had a huge article with the photos taken at my villa by the piano, which was in the piano, actually, my husband had purchased from my sponsors in Grand Rapids, Michigan, when I had sponsors for my music. So we had, it was a Steinway, but it was a small grand, it wasn't a large concert grand or anything. But anyway, it was a nice piano, and I had that in Florida there. So the photographer came and took pictures of me at the piano. And when the Palm Beach photographer came to my villa to take pictures, he informed me that if I was planning to go out after he finished with the photos, he said if I was planning to go out to be sure to lock all my doors. I said, well, don't worry, I always lock all my doors in the villa. So I don't know why he made a statement like that. It's very interesting, but they must have had other experiences. So since I planned to go out to get a bite to eat, I locked all the doors. And I couldn't believe when I returned to the villa, my back sliding doors were partly open. So I telephoned New York, my people in New York, the one person, and when they answered in New York, I heard at the other end, on my end, I heard them say, hello, this is White and Case, can I help you? So I asked the party in New York, I said, did you hear that? And they said, no. Hear what? And I told them what they said. They said, no, I didn't hear it at this end. So obviously while I was out, they did something to my phones. It's unbelievable. I mean, now they knew all where I lived. I mean, the villa was a very nice location, you know, to live at. And they knew because the trust, William Wilkie, who was in the trust department, he used to tell me he used to go to the Ritz-Carlton across the street on the ocean. And, oh, your villa, your place is in there, huh? And there's an ice cream parlor right next door. And, oh, I go to the ice cream parlor all the time. They knew too much about me. They knew everything. So now when the newspaper editor phoned the bank, she called when she was finished, you know, with all her research. She phoned the bank to speak and alert them about the article. Guess what the bank said? They stated, don't you dare publish that. The editor of the paper said, she checked with her other editor from what I understand, and she said, you are in the banking business and we are in the newspaper business, so mind your own business. I thought that was very clever, and I'll tell you, there aren't many papers that have the courage to say something like that, but they did. Now, they published a very large article and photos and so forth, and it was a pretty good article, really. I mean, to some extent, I guess they have to be careful in some ways, but they did a pretty good job. And the Palm Beach Daily News also had an article about the wrong entity in the letters testamentary, namely Bankers Trust of New York instead of Bankers Trust Company. They had Bankers Trust Company of New York instead of Bankers Trust Company in the letters testamentary. Bankers Trust Company of New York was not in existence at the time of my husband's death until 10 years later in 1999 when Deutsche Bank purchased the convicted federal felon Bankers Trust Company. By the way, I just want to say the letters testamentary, in case people don't know, and a lot of people don't know, I'm sure, is like the Bible to an estate. I mean, that's what you go by. We checked with a couple judges and told them, and they said, no, that's serious. I was interviewed by a lawyer in Eric Schneiderman's office, the Attorney General, and we told the lawyer there about the letters testamentary. She said, oh, that's serious. What is that? And we told her. So legally, if the name of the executor is incorrect, it makes everything null and void. Now tell me, why wouldn't any of my attorneys say anything about that? Or, of course, the court. It's really a fraud on the court. And none of my attorneys. Finally, one of my people in New York wrote the different attorneys I had and said, why they brought the problem up to them even after I left them and said, were you aware of the fact the letter's testamentary? Some of them didn't even answer, and others would just try to dodge it. I mean, it was unreal. We discovered this in 2005 through the newspaper owner Ralph Martinelli, of course, because he was quizzing the Judge Emanuele at that time, and Emanuele didn't want to give it up. He just said, no, White and Case abandoned the estate 2 months after death because they represented the bank in a loan from my husband, a repayment. But he didn't want to say about the letters. I must add that the Westchester and New York City publications are very weak and do not come out with the criminal acts, as strongly as that Palm Beach Post did. Palm Beach Post, yes. I'm sure they are either threatened in the same way or another, and the Palm Beach Post was as they were, but they had a strong editor when she had proof and facts and she took time to listen. So I like strong people. I don't like these other people that are weak. They end up lying. We did not stop. We kept trying to make contact, and several events took place. Now, I don't have exact dates on everything, but now we're up to year 2005, and a lot of things happened from 2005 to 2000, mainly 2014, and after that, other different things happened from 2014 to today, 2020. I think it was around, it was already 2009. We had another contact. It was, we were invited to speak for the New York State Senate Judiciary Committee. And the head of it was Senator Sampson. We came to the committee, and another victim, not a banker's trust, but a victim of another bank, several banks in fact, was Elliot Bernstein, a friend of ours, and he came to speak there also. And Gisela Weishaus, who was from the Holocaust Injustice Affair, she came there also. And they didn't want the three of us to speak. When we got there, they said, oh no, you're not going to be allowed to speak. And we said, why not? What's the problem? Well, I don't think we'll have time for you people. And they tried to avoid us. So we got a hold of another political person we knew and asked him if he could do something about this for us. And he said, yeah, I'll get in touch with someone. So he did. Probably the same senator that got us to Elliot Spitzer. But anyway, whoever it was, he came up there, he got in contact, and he got it so that all three of us could speak. The problem is, White and Case sent two of their people there again, two women there to observe, court observers, And they found out, before we got our break here through a politician, they found out that we weren't going to be allowed to speak, so they left. Well, guess what? But we got allowed, we were allowed to speak. So the head of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Senator Sampson, was interested in my case, and of course we always pursued our cases too, but he was interested. And through our contacts, we got to testify, and he listened to it all, and he heard the others too, but they were, Elliot was from out of town, of course. So anyway, now after I spoke as I said, Senator Sampson took an interest in my story, and he met with me and then assigned his legal counsel to deal with us directly. Her name was Rita Davey. And John Sampson was the head of the group. And that was his legal counsel, and they tried to help us and had many meetings. I mean, Rita Davey had many meetings with us. And finally, after, I don't even know, maybe it was 4 months, she tried to get a lot of details. She tried to figure out what she could do. I think probably things we didn't know. They probably were threatened or turned back or whatever happened. So then she suggested we go to Attorney Eric Schneiderman, the New York State Attorney General. And so we called him, and we were assigned to a lawyer in his office. And as I say before, we told her about the letters testamentary and other things, but she said, oh, that's serious. Then through all this, we got connection with the TV stations. ABC News, which had Mr. Hoffer there, was the person who I spoke to. And he was very interested in my case. And he interviewed me in the back where they heard different people speak for the TV station, ABC. So he called me to the back and he wanted to talk to me. And my person from New York was with me and explained things to him and so on. He said, good. He said, I'm going to put you in touch with our producer, to interview you and so on. Well, guess what? I don't know, shortly after, when I called there, they said, oh no, the producer can't speak to you. They got to the producer. They got to the whole thing. It was dropped. So we couldn't get on. This is what happens. Just injustice cannot come out. People don't want to hear it, and they'll cut it for you. So unless you know the head person of the TV station or something. But anyway, now Elliot Bernstein, our friend, also in 2003 said we're all going to file with Judge Shara Shinlin. I think it was the Supreme Court or Federal Court, one of them, I forget now. But anyway, it was a whistleblower. Christine Anderson was a whistleblower case about corruption in the First Department Judicial Committee. And she worked there. She was a lawyer, and she was a whistleblower. So we filed related to her case. And there were, I don't know, maybe 10 people that filed with us. It was in federal court, that was it. It was Judge Shara Shinlin. And I guess in the end, the court didn't want to handle these criminal cases. So it was dismissed after some time, I believe. It was sitting there for a while, and Judge Shinlin retired. As far as I know, or she left the court, either one. So there are a lot of things we tried. When I went to the Attorney General Eric Schneiderman's office, I think we were there for 7 months. I forgot the name of the lawyer in his office, a woman who interviewed us. I think I didn't call her that often. I might have called her 3 times in the 7 months and asked her, what's happening? What's going on? Well, I'm checking with some judges. And I thought, oh boy, I wonder who the judges know, So she kept saying, I'm checking, I'm doing research on it, who knows who she's calling, the bank and whatnot. So, and you know what they're going to say. So, anyway, finally, after about 7 months, I got a letter from her, and I don't have it in front of me, so I can't say the exact words. But basically, it was a short letter telling me that I should go back into court and fight it further. Well, that's what I went to her for. I mean, the injustice going on. So, you see, they couldn't. Here is Eric Schneiderman. Let me tell you. I mean, isn't he in charge of the judicial system in New York State? I mean, and they can't report criminal activity? So, what do you think when you hear these things? What's going on in this state and this country? What's going on? How can anyone get justice? As they said to me in the court, and they said to someone else, they said, there's no justice here. You know? Tell me, what do you do? What do you do to get justice? No one knows about this unless they're faced with it themselves. So these were different people I went to. Now, we had another incident further along, which I think was 2013 maybe. It was a little bit along the way because this was in 2000, this was 2003, 2005, 2007. All of a sudden one day I had a knock on my door. Schneider one was 2010. Okay. I had a knock on my door of my home, and I was working upstairs, and one of my group was working downstairs in the basement, I think, and they came up, and I came to the door, and they said, hello, we're here to help you. I said, who are you? And of course, thank goodness my other person was there, so I had a witness and I had someone who could also speak for me. He said, where are you from? She said, well, Protective Services. We can help you. And I said, help me with what? Well, you know, if we can come in and talk, we could just help you. And he said, no, do you have a card? Well, no, they didn't have a card. And he said, well, there's no reason to come here then. And they had a car parked at the end of my long driveway in Westchester where my home is. At the end of the driveway was another car parked. And I think there was one by my house. I don't quite recall, but you can imagine what they were up to. So we, of course, told them, no, there's no reason to be here. I said, listen, I work hard, I'm doing well, I don't need your help. So they did leave, and then my group managed to write a couple letters to them to let them know, you don't, you know, there's no business coming around here. No way. Whatever were the letters. But that kept them quiet. But Elliot Bernstein has actually written articles in Florida of what they do to older or senior citizens. If you have a little money, even if you have a little money, whatever you have. I mean, we know Jonathan Manny Place's mother. She had a nurse working for her. Now they have more money, they had a little more, they had a nice home, and they lived in Rye, New York, and the nurse actually sold them out. And they got papers filed that they tried to get guardianship over them. And it was some job, let me tell you. They had court hearings about it, and finally one of my group tried to help her and Jonathan Place, her son, who didn't get his inheritance either, and he was fighting that part of it. And they were trying to get her money, in other words, and put her in a nursing home. And she was, I don't know, probably in her 80s, I don't really know. And it ended up they got part of it, but her other money she was able to keep. But she didn't know what was going on. She said to one of my groups, she said, you know, what is this? am I okay mentally? My guy, what's wrong with me? And he said, no, all your furniture's in place upstairs. Don't worry about it. I mean, really. So, but this goes on in Florida with the senior citizens. I mean, we know of another person, Elliot knew, that they put him in a nursing home for a month, and his son finally had to get lawyers. He didn't know where he was even. And he finally got a hold of him and got him out. But the poor man died about a month later. But these people put him in a nursing home. They got a hold of him. And whether it was through a nurse again, I don't know. But he was near 90, and he was very active. His son said he was going to restaurants, he was going out and doing this and that, but they got a hold of him. So, you see, these are things we never hear about. But it's all money, money, money. That's all they want. If they can get your money, they'll figure out. They have a bag of tricks, which they do. So anyway, okay, Glendora, I think I chatted long enough on this episode, and I did have another attorney actually. You know, we kept doing a lot, trying publicity and this and that, and another one that I had met because it was actually through a dentist that I was going to, and he always asked me how I was doing, and I guess I didn't give too good of an impression, so he said, well, I know of an attorney that that I thought was always good, and I could send you to him. I'll tell you one thing. I went to the attorney. He was very knowledgeable. He knew the injustice in the court system. So he looked at all our material. He saw how tragic everything was. So he said, listen, I'm not going to litigate. I'll only negotiate. So he wanted to know who he would go to see. So we said, well, David Kiko, you know, is the attorney for the bank of Pillsbury Winthrop. So he made an appointment with him. He kept in touch with us. And, well, he said, you know, David Kiko, he speaks a lot about himself all the time. I have to stop him. I mean, they're very arrogant. I did this, I did that. And he said, I had to stop him and say, look, my client's paying for the time. I came here to negotiate, not to sit and chat. So finally it ended up after 3 visits or 4, and minus $11,000 from me. He finally said, you know, how much do you want? Well, at that point, I said, I never give a figure. I always say, what will they offer? But finally, he pressed me so much. I said, well, I gave him a figure into 20-some million or something. He said, oh, no, he'll never do that. Oh, no. He said, and then I found out that they're insured. After $5 million, they have to report it to their insurance company. So they're not going to offer you any more than $3 million, maybe 4 if you're lucky. And then he renounced the trust. So what did he had planned to get it in another bank in a trust, which I wouldn't want, because what do they pay? What kind of interest do you get? So anyway, that didn't work out either. That's another. We had many situations because we're strong and we stand up for our rights. So, okay, Glendora, I'm going to have to continue on another episode.